in terms of the Bible, I think many people, especially new believers, can be confused when it comes to the fact that there's so many different versions of the Bible. So, first off, why are there so many versions of the Bible? And second, which one would you suggest and personally use?
You're talking about translations?
Yeah, translations.
Yeah, well, the reason there are many translations is because there's many different ways that you can communicate truth. You've got the very literal translation all the way through the paraphrase translation. And I think just about every version of the Bible is fine to use except the perversion known as the New World Translation, because the New World Translation is the Jehovah's Witness translation, and they deliberately change the text in a couple of areas in order to fit their theology. What's said in the Greek is not said in the English version that they have come up with. But for devotional use or just everyday use, I use the NIV. I call it the Nearly Inspired Version because it has advantages and disadvantages. If I want to know what the real literal translation is, I might go to the New American Standard Bible or the ESV or the New King James. If I want more of a paraphrase, more modern day language, maybe the New Living Bible, something like that. And they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I think it's important to actually read all of them when you're reading a text and trying to understand what the text means. In fact, we have a course called How to Interpret Your Bible, and that's one of the things we recommend. Read all of them because there's many different ways to communicate the truth, translated, from Greek or from Hebrew into English. And it's already an interpretation when you're reading it, because the translators have to, in some sense, interpret the Greek or the Hebrew into English. So it's an interpretation already. And some people will say, well, isn't the literal translation necessarily better? No, not necessarily. It might be in certain areas, but let me give you an example of this. You remember the story in the Old Testament where the account where Saul is trying to find David. He wants to kill David, and David's hiding in a cave, and Saul goes into the cave. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And David could have killed Saul right there, but he said, I don't want to touch the Lord's anointed. So he doesn't touch him. Well, the account says that Saul went into the cave to cover his feet. I mean, if you're reading, say, the King James, the New King James, or the NASB or something, that's what it's going to say, to cover his feet. Now, I don't even know what that means. You know what that means? Cover your feet? What are you talking about?
Then I don't know.
Yeah. Now, if you go to a NIV, more thought-for-thought translation, kind of in between the paraphrase and the literal, they translate it for you because cover your feet is an idiom. It's a saying, and cover your feet meant to urinate. Now, I don't know about you, but when I urinate, I want to be a little bit more precise than covering my feet, don't you?
Yeah.
Like I want to go a little further out than that.
Yeah.
But that's what they called it, cover your feet. So if you're reading the NASB, you don't know it, or the New King James, you're going, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
But if you're reading the NIV, you go, oh, he went in to relieve himself.
Gotcha.
I get it now. So sometimes the paraphrase or the less literal can be more helpful to you.
Yeah, so just going through different translations can help you get a wider and more versatile understanding of what you're reading rather than...
Right, a more robust appreciation for what's being communicated. Yeah.
Yeah.